Greetings, UTV and buddies. This is Ultimate 23 Dragon, and, welp, Speed Weeks is over. At the time of this taping, it is now 11:10 on February 22nd, 2015. And everything is just about the way it's supposed to be. Nice, quiet, another bizarre Speed Weeks. But I think we've had the most bizarrest Speed Weeks we've ever had. And the reason I say that is there's a lot of WTF moments that came out of Speed Weeks 2015. So, welcome to the top 10 countdown video about those WTF moments of Speed Weeks 2015. Like the shirt? My first Johnny Benson shirt. Finally found it after a long time. That's actually one of the better parts of the week, that I actually found the shirt. Because these things that happened, they weren't awesome as this shirt. In fact, they weren't awesome at all. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, let's begin with number 10. The number 10 WTF about Speed Weeks 2015 is this fact. The last caution in the Daytona 500 was caused by contact between the 24 and the 3. Now, if this was somewhere in the late 90s, that could sound a little more logical. But in today's NASCAR, not really. You knew in the final lap of the 500 there was going to be some sort of big one. 4 wide? For as long as they went on the last lap, you knew something was going to happen, and eventually did, when Austin Dillon's car and Jeff Gordon's car made contact with each other, and there goes the big one. The irony about that fact is more confusing. Because, when you think about it, back in the old days, Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Sr. were synonymous with each other. And for Jeff Gordon's last 500 to end with him and the 3 car, in this case Austin Dillon, getting into contact and triggering the, I wouldn't say really a big one, more of a sliding big one. Because usually with the big one, it's crash, 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 crash. This big one was more everyone sliding. But anyway, the irony about that fact is what is most intriguing with me. And when you think about it at the exact same time, it's kind of a WTF deal when you think about it. Number 9 is the fact that Denny Hamlin is being a douche to Danica Patrick. One of the things that intrigues me is the assumption that the Gibbs crew is trying to turn Denny Hamlin evil. And apparently that is becoming the case because Denny's become a flat-out douche when it comes to Danica. Think about this. We had Denny crash Danica in the middle of a practice section on the back straightaway. And then Denny crashes Danica in the duel race. Could you imagine all of the heat that Hamlin would have taken if that actually would have made Danica DNQ? Because there were some people who were rooting for that, my boyfriend included. Fortunately for Danica, she got help from a teammate and raced her way into the 500. As for Denny Hamlin, if he makes one more error, no matter what it is or severity, he's going to declare it evil on the spot. This douchery from Hamlin is going to end. Or else. And I'm not the only one who's saying that. Because in addition to that, Hamlin tries to absolve himself of all blame and tries to say, "No, it wasn't my fault. Your car's just too loose." Yeah, it's too loose when you're hitting on it. You wrecked her both times, dude. Just admit it. Don't try and lie your way out of it. You look like more of a bigger douche. And Danica's had some illegitimate beefs in the past. But her beef with you, Hamlin? That's real. Douche. Number 8, I saw this coming a mile away, but I did not think that the repercussion of it would happen the day after. The NASCAR of today has this habit of being inconsistent with calls to do what we call benefit the baddie. And here's what I mean. In the Xfinity race, a couple of cars had a spin out towards the turn 1 area on the last lap. Now, the NASCAR of today would usually react by throwing a caution, no matter what. Unless the person leading is a good guy. In this case, Brad Keselowski. NASCAR lets them race back, and the Roush Brigade manages to beat him. Now, granted, Ryan Reed is a huge story with all the stuff he's gone through, and him winning is definitely better than Chris Buescher winning, to be honest. But the trust factor with the fact that he's with Roush, and also the fact that NASCAR basically, depending on your opinion, screwed Keselowski, that's a huge deal. Because that set a precedent. And I told my boyfriend that night, you watch, if something similar happens in another race, and a bad guy's leading, they're going to call the caution. The next day, in the 500, Logano and Harvick, who everyone knows are baddies to me, are leading the race. And then we have the aforementioned contact between Austin Dillon and Jeff Gordon, which caused the big one, or the sliding one, whatever one it was. NASCAR threw the caution. Now, I have a problem with this. In the Xfinity race, the rageout occurred between the start-finish line and turn 1. In the 500, this occurred on the back straightaway. There was no reason for NASCAR to throw that caution. They could have easily raced back and there would have been no issue. But no. NASCAR once again proved itself inconsistent on calls. So depending on your point of view, they either screwed Brad Keselowski out of the Xfinity race, or screwed Kevin Harvick and maybe a few others out of the 500. Depending on your point of view. And my point of view is, they screwed Keselowski. Just another ridiculous thing going on with the evils of NASCAR. And I don't like that. What the blue hell was Mike Wallace doing when the red flag came out in the Xfinity race during the first big one? The big one already happened, and that included the Regan Smith flip. So NASCAR brings out the red flag, which means everyone's supposed to stop. So here's the field all stopping on the back straightaway. All of a sudden you see Mike Wallace, full throttle, screeches brakes, and runs into Austin Dillon. Huh? There's no logic to that. What the hell was he doing? And then later, he and the crew made up the excuse that his radio's gone bad, so he didn't hear the call and it was a red flag. That's all well and good, but even if your radio doesn't work, your eyes should. You should have seen that everybody was slowing down and stopping. And even if you weren't able to stop, there was more road on the back straightaway where you can swerve so you didn't hit anyone and damage your own car. Idiot. Ugh. What the hell was wrong with Mike Wallace in that one? Just, ugh. I just don't know. Can anyone explain that logic? There is no logic to that. Number 6 is even more perplexing. Why in the world did we have to settle the front row of the Daytona 500 by group qualifying? There's no need for that. There's no logic whatsoever to that. You want an exciting way to settle who does what for qualifying in all your events, let alone this one? Here's how you do it. IndyCar did a similar system at Iowa one year, and I liked it. You send out 4 cars on the track. Give them 5 minutes. And then, when time's up for that group, do it for another group. And keep on going and going until all the cars have their own session, and the fastest one wins the pole. Then you set the order from there. Simple enough. It's the same format as the 1 car goes around the track, but with 4 cars. That's how you make it exciting. And roll them out, so one in one area could be in between turn 1 and 2. One would be on the back stretch, one would be on the front stretch, one between 3 and 4. That's the simplest way to do it. We do not need to have a bunch of ridiculous racing things going on. And then on top of that, we had another problem. The problem being the stupidity of waiting until the last possible moment to get one lap in. What garbage is that? Seriously. Okay, the 5-minute countdown begins now. Green flag, green flag. Everyone pulls out and stops on pit road. Wait 4 minutes. Then you go around, get to the green flag right on time. Just for the clock to hit 0 and complete 1 lap. That's stupid. That's not exciting. And Brainless Frank says he listens to the audience what we want. We do not want this. Listen to us for once in your stupid, miserable life. Stuff like this is what's killing NASCAR today. Clint Boyer said it right on the nose. This is one of the stupidest things that NASCAR has ever done. And he also made a compelling case. The wreck that he was involved in, during the time trial that he was involved in, I thought Reed Thornton had caused the wreck by blocking. But Clint Boyer has a point. NASCAR caused that wreck. And that wasn't actually the only wreck NASCAR caused that week. Number 5 is going to be a little bit of a touchy subject because it involved an injury rush attack. There are some things that you can see happen in terms of some drivers, but when a major level driver gets injured, you know something's not right. And that's what happened when Kyle Busch got his leg and foot injury during the second Xfinity Series big one of the week. So, as you can tell by the footage I have here, Kyle presumably hits the wall hard and that's it. But there's actually more to this than you know. Thank you, ESPN. The Fox crew did not show a blown-up version of Kyle's path to hitting the wall. And when I saw ESPN blow up the car and show us exactly what happened, I had a couple crashes come to my mind. And that's how I figured out what happened with Kyle's injuries. The first impact is reminiscent of what happened to Rick Crawford in the 2004 Atlanta truck race. That was the crash in which Tina Gordon had some sort of rage out, which ended up in Hank Parker Jr. and Rick Crawford being collided. And when Crawford hit the wall, it had a similar angle as to what happened with Kyle Busch in this wreck. The result of the impact for Crawford in this crash was a broken left foot. That's exactly what happened to Kyle Busch's left foot. In addition, the reason that Kyle Busch's right leg got injured is because of the fact that after he hit the wall, the car bounced up and down a couple of times consecutively and roughly. That's exactly what happened to Bill Elliott in Talladega in 1996. The result of that was also a broken leg attribution against Bill, which resulted in him being sidelined for about 5 races. So, because of that factoring, you can pretty much expect Kyle Busch to return in approximately 5 to 7 races, depending on when the Gibbs people are comfy. And I'm pretty much more than positive that NASCAR is going to give Kyle a waiver if he wins a race to get in the chase. They did it when Denny Hamlin had that eye thing, and they did it after what happened with Tony Stewart last year, when he decided to sit out a few races. So, as far as I know, all this is a minor setback. Do not fret, Busch fans. Although there is one thing that I am concerned about, and that's legitimacy off the track. When I was heading back home from the library where I do all of my internet stuff, I get a text message from my boyfriend saying, confirmed Kurt Busch suspended indefinitely. I'm going, okay, what's this about? Well, supposedly what happened is that the Delaware family court system, and notice I'm using quotation marks, said that Kurt Busch, more than likely than not, committed some form of domestic violence against his ex-girlfriend. And because of that, NASCAR and Chevrolet had the brilliant idea to suspend him indefinitely and suspend their relationship, respectively. I actually have issue with this. Why? Well, there's these problems. The supposed domestic violence thing happened, according to the girl, in September. This was not mentioned at any form until 2 to 3 months later. Not weeks, months. In addition to that, it's pretty much obvious that this is a girl who seemed upset about something, and what I'm guessing is that she apparently wanted Kurt to be her husband or something. And my guess is he said no, so apparently she wanted some sort of payback. That's what I'm seeing here. Now, why am I saying that? Well, there's this problem. There's never any proof about supposedly what had happened. The story had changed at least 3 times. There's no physical and visual evidence that she was harmed in any way. In addition to this, the family court from Delaware said, more likely than not, hey, ding-dong court system. He either did or he didn't. There's no middle area in terms of this stuff. Either he did something to harm the girl or he didn't. It's not more likely than not. Because what you're saying to me is, well, we don't have exactamundo 100% evidence that we believe he did these things, but we're kind of leaning towards it anyway, just to appease the girl. because we don't want to say this happened, then she sues us for it. Huh? There's no legitimacy to this. As far as I can tell, all it is a girl who wants payback against someone who she wanted as her mate, and he rejected her. I'm not the biggest Kurt Busch fan in the world. In fact, I'm nowhere close to the biggest Kurt Busch fan in the world. But even I disagree with this suspension. Until you can show me, without a shadow of a doubt, that Kurt Busch harmed this girl with this domestic violence thing that she is claiming, if she can prove to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that this happened, then I can get on your side for this. But until then, no proof, no legitimacy. I don't believe you, girl. There is no point to this. And the fact that NASCAR and Chevrolet bought into this, I call garbage. There are some things that Kurt Busch should be punished for. A girl wanting payback is not one of them. Oh, and by the way, I heard this on race day earlier today, saying that Kurt will have to go through some road to recovery thing. Please elaborate to me how that's going to work. What I'm seeing here is a ridiculous witch hunt. Oh, and one more request. Daytona and security people, please find the dumbass who did that stupid 41 Ray Weiss thing and basically banish him from Daytona. Because there's no correlation between the two. What I'm seeing is a girl who wants payback on a guy and will do anything to get it. It's been seen before, and it'll be seen again. So, here's an old adage for NASCAR and Chevrolet. Think before you act. Read the fine print. More likely than not, is not 100% confirming that he's guilty or not guilty. That sounds like you guys are guessing. And I advise anyone in the state of Delaware never to go to this flaming court system again because they can't make up their minds. And one more thing. If Kurt Busch did this domestic violence thing, wouldn't he be in jail right now? Hello? There's no logic to this. Prove to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that Kurt did all this stuff that you're saying has happened, girl. And then I'll believe your story. But until then, I'm just going to think you're out for revenge for no reason. And all you want to do is ruin the dude's life. And that is garbage. NASCAR plus WWE equals...
What the f***?
I'm not kidding. Alright, so a few months ago, WWE put out a memo saying that the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view would be replaced. And the new February pay-per-view would be an event called WWE Fastlane. Because what usually goes on is between Royal Rumble, which is in January, and WrestleMania, which is either in March or April, depending on the days. What happens is the February pay-per-view and everything included with that is known as the Road to WrestleMania. Now, the particular pay-per-views had different names. There's Elimination Chamber. They had No Way Out. Excuse me. But anyway, this year they decided to change it up to Fastlane, which is pretty cute. It sounds like it's more sports-based, and to a certain extent it was. After all, this pay-per-view is always on the same day as the Daytona 500. But here's the funny part. Around the same time was a press release saying that there would be a new person to do coverage involving WWE for the UK. The name of this person was Kyle Edwards. And the wrestling site that I go to for information revealed that this was not the dude's real name. Supposedly, it was a fusion of Kyle Petty and Carl Edwards. I'm more inclined to believe it's Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards, but alright. So basically what's going on is that WWE is trying to infuse NASCAR somehow. Because Fastlane, that's auto racing related. And now we have this Kyle Edwards person. Wouldn't that be horrible? But anyway, then it gets weirder. During the Speedweek event, there was a party of some sort that Fox Sports 1 showed right before the Daytona 500. The name of this event? Bash at the Beach. And the reason this is funny to me is because Bash at the Beach is actually the name of a WCW pay-per-view from yesteryear before WCW was bought out by WWE. No irony there, now is it? But here's the kicker. I wasn't around to see most of the 500 because I was working. But what happened was my boyfriend would update me on things that would happen. And somewhere during the pre-races stuff, they would show some sort of montage involving fights from last year with sound bits from Jim Ross in them.
Basically what you have, folks, a blend between WWE and probably a little bit of Housewives.
Don't do it, man! Good God almighty! What a slobbering over! This is just about to pick up! Will somebody start the fight? Enough is enough!
Now, for those who don't know, Jim Ross is a former WWE announcer and a WWE Hall of Famer who was basically relieved from duty after some weird incident with Ric Flair. Which sounds stupid because they should have released Ric Flair for all I care. Because that doesn't make sense. But anyway, after that happened, Jim Ross apparently was picked up by Fox Sports 1 to do some stuff involving boxing, from what I've heard. But technically, Jim is under contract to do this. And so, what I'm assuming is the Fox Sports crew, and apparently NASCAR, I guess, decided to have the idea to mock back WWE by having Jim Ross do a few lines and stuff. And from the recording I heard on the phone, because I don't have internet here, apparently there were sound bits from his WWE days. Maybe. I don't remember an event where he said, "Don't do it, Matt." I remember "Don't do it, Jeff," but not Matt. But the fact that the WWE renaming a pay-per-view really to some sort of unknown war between NASCAR and WWE. I can't believe this. Oh, God. So we get a more sports-related pay-per-view name during the biggest week in NASCAR, or one of the biggest weeks in NASCAR, because I honestly don't think the 500 is the biggest week. I personally think that the Coke 600 is. But anyway, then the Kyle Edwards dude in the UK, so we don't have anything to do with it here, unless NASCAR Euro is somehow involved. And then the Bash at the Beach thing, which is not a WCW event, but a party before the Daytona 500, the day before. And then Jim Ross gets involved in a NASCAR promo. Whether he actually did or not, I don't know, but... Oh, that was just hilarious. So now we're going to have a NASCAR and WWE war, I assume. I wonder if this is going to extend to the future. That's my question. War games, anybody? Right, so remember when I said that the Ray Sorensen Glenn Boyer thing was not the only wreck that NASCAR caused during Speedweeks? NASCAR caused the big one in the truck race. Now, here was the premise for this one. Apparently, what was going on is that Ben Kennedy in the 11 truck had some sort of issue, was in the outside wall next to stopped on the track with sparks flying. NASCAR doesn't throw the caution. And by not throwing the caution, they caused the caution by having people react on the track and causing a big one. What the blue hell was NASCAR thinking on that one? There's no logic to that. And don't forget, this is the same NASCAR where if someone... See, here is the surface of Daytona right here. Here is the infield to the back straightaway. If a car is parked over here, they'll throw a caution for that. You're telling me that in this little groove right here, there's a truck right here with the pack coming, and you don't throw the caution for that? You idiots at NASCAR caused the big one. How? Why? There's no logic to that. Why would you do that? Now, my dad, who was watching the event with me, is adamant that the 31 caused the wreck, but I think NASCAR caused the wreck. You have the 11 truck off the pace, on the back straightaway, in the wall. Not the inside wall, the outside wall. And because you don't throw the caution, boom, there's the big one. There's no logic to that. And the worst part is, throughout the entire weekend, they're not the most guilty party of the weekend. There's one even worse than that. So what's the biggest WTF about Speed Weeks 2015? It's obviously the one thing I've not mentioned yet. Why the blue hell is there no safer barrier on the inside wall of Daytona leading into turn 1? Above all else, that is the least excusable thing that has happened during Speed Weeks. What the freakazoid? Have you guys at Daytona not learned from the Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano incident in California a few years ago? Remember that area that nobody thought was going to get hit ever? And all of a sudden, bang, Denny Hamlin hits the wall and breaks his back? There is no excuse for that. Under no circumstance should be racing at any racetrack that has no safer wall in an area where a wall is. Because of that, Busch got injured. Now, I by no means am a Kyle Busch person, but I am a safety person. In all forms. And by not putting a safer barrier in that spot, Daytona proved itself irresponsible. Why do I say that? Because they were more focused on their sweet project. Getting rid of the old and bringing in the new that you see in those commercials involving Dale Jr. So yeah, I can understand that you want to bring in some more entertainment for us, but can we worry about the drivers first? Install the safer barriers all over the racetracks. Then you can focus on helping the fans. Because by not putting in the safer barrier where it's supposed to be, you angered those fans. You angered reporters like Ryan McGee and Marty Smith. You angered fans of all aspects. Both the Busch fans and the anti-Busch fans. That was no good thing you did, Daytona. And personally, if I was NASCAR, and they're not going to do it because they're stupid, I would suspend Daytona for an entire weekend in all their divisions. If you're not going to protect the drivers, you don't need any races. That's how I see it. I think Daytona should be suspended. Daytona should be suspended for causing the biggest WTF of Speedweeks 2015. That's my final answer.